So I've always wanted a shop. That was one of my dreams when I was growing up. When I was younger, my dream, and then when I started having children, my dream was to have a shop, have a physical location, where I'd have the shop at the front, and then I would, because my goal was always to home educate, and then I would be home educating at the back. And I knew a lot of people who did that. Their business worked around their children, and it all worked really well. I love the idea of having a bookshop and sharing knowledge. I was into health, so there was always going to be kind of a health component to it as well. That was always my goal. But I never actually needed a shop because for most of my life as a business owner, I was a nutritionist. I was coaching from home. I was coaching clients over the phone and over the internet. I was even coaching clients with Skype. So if you don't remember Skype, if any of you are as old as me and remember using Skype calls, that's how I used to coach my clients. I was selling books. I'm not sure if you lot know, but I'm an author of 6 books. This is one of my books, and this is one of the challenges that I'm going to talk about later on. This is one of my books, and I've got 5 other books like that. So I was selling my books from home. I was home educating as well. So I was basically at home. I could do everything at home, and I was doing everything very efficiently from home as well. And it was a very simple life. In hindsight, it was a very simple life, but it was also a very beautiful life. And hindsight is 2020, but we're here now. I then discovered live blood analysis, and most people know that I knew someone who was doing live blood analysis, and I thought the whole thing was a gimmick. I'm like, well, you're going to tell me about my whole body from one drop of blood? I know a scam when I see one. I'm not giving you £45 to look at one drop of blood. You can't tell me nothing from that. Doctors can't tell you anything from 14 bottles of blood. How are you going to tell me something from one drop of blood? But anyway, I went to an event, and there were 2 people doing it there, and they were doing it for like £10. So I was like, all right, I know a scam, but I also know a bargain. So I went and got my blood taken, and the lady was able to tell me what I was doing, what I wasn't doing, and could explain a heart condition that I had. So she was offering training as well as doing the live blood analysis. She was also offering training at the time. So I'm like, I would love to do this training, but it was a residential course, and I still had I think I was on my 4th child, still very young. I then had 2 other children after that. And I basically had to wait until my youngest child was old enough that I wasn't breastfeeding and I could go and do this residential course. So I did the residential around 2017. And my baby was basically old enough by that time for me to not only go and leave and do this training, but by doing this training, I needed to see clients face to face now. So I needed to work from home. And because my youngest was old enough for me to be able to do that, in 2018, for the first time ever, basically, apart from the odd Leah's Raw Food workshop that I ran, this was the first time I opened a physical location space where I was working from, and I still wasn't working there full time. Home educating has always been my priority. My role as a mother, my job as a mother has always been my basically full-time priority. Everything else kind of happens around my home educating journey. So I was working and home educating, I think I think I was still doing the same thing that I'm doing now, which is I was home educating during the week, and I was working on the weekends. Sometimes that would be 3 days throughout the week. And if I would go to London, that might be, 3 or 4 days. But for the majority of the time, I was still at home. So I opened my clinic in Kettering, where I was living at the time. And I was traveling around a lot. This is the times back in the day when I was going to London to do clinics, and Luton and Ipswich and anywhere. I was going everywhere. Me and my microscope were going everywhere to do everyone's live blood analysis. And then I hired an assistant to help me with my marketing. And she found Kembe, who was promoting her Return to Your Roots Festival, one of the best events in the whole of the West Midlands. She found her, and my assistant contacted her saying, do you want a speaker who can speak on nutrition? And Kembe said yes. I went and did Kembe's event. I did the live blood analysis at her event. Kembe said, I've got a salon in Erdington in Birmingham, and you can come and do your live blood analysis from there. I was like, this is amazing. So I started going to Erdington like once a month and seeing clients. And then I really loved Birmingham. I really loved the community in Birmingham. I loved Kembe. I loved Rena, the sister that was also working there. I loved being around so many black people, to be honest, because where I was working, where we were living in Kettering, it was like spot the black. It was like get out. Like you would walk past a black person on the street and they would walk straight past you like there was no one else. I swear they would have acknowledged a cat walking down the street before they acknowledged us. It was just not a nice environment to live in. So the goal was for me to actually move to Birmingham. But when we looked at house prices in Wolverhampton compared to Birmingham, we were like, okay, Wolverhampton's house prices are way better and houses are a lot bigger. And now Wolverhampton is my favorite place in the whole of the UK. Of all the places we've lived, I love Wolverhampton. I love the kind of this Black Country, West Midlands area. So we had the so I had Erdington. We moved to Wolverhampton. I had my clinic in Erdington. Then COVID hit because we moved to Wolverhampton in 2019 and then COVID hit. So COVID slowed down the business, obviously, significantly and dramatically. Now, even though we were health workers, so we were still able to see clients based on that, our businesses didn't really recover from that. The whole salon actually didn't really recover from that. And so my client base slowed down, even in Erdington. And again, the community in Erdington, the community in Birmingham really did embrace me. They were very like, I would see one client if that client had a good experience with me, they would literally recommend their whole entire family. I was literally seeing everyone from grandparents to the children, the aunts and uncles, the brothers and sisters, the nieces and nephews, the babies. I would see everyone. Everyone was very, very, very supportive. But it was draining driving all the way from Wolverhampton to Birmingham to see one client, and it was unsustainable. And I didn't charge enough, and I've never charged enough, to be honest, for live blood analysis to make it worth it. So not only did I decide to leave, but the other stylist that was there, the sister that was there with me, we both decided to leave that space. And when I left that space, I wanted to find somewhere closer to home, just in Wolverhampton. And I found somewhere called the Saturn Centre, which is in Ettingshall, like between Wolverhampton and Bilston. And it was just a big old industrial building, big old industrial business park. And I just got a big space in there, like a big office space, which is probably half the size of the health centre that I'm in now. So it had three kind of spaces. It was the biggest space that I had ever been in. So the clinic that I had in Kettering was smaller than the place I had in Erdington. So moving to Erdington was like a step up. I had stepped up, got bigger, got a bigger place, expanded. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. I had expanded by moving to Birmingham. And then moving from the space in Birmingham to the Saturn Centre was like, wow, this is bigger. It's closer to the home. And the expenses were low, even though it was a little bit less than what I was paying in Birmingham. But the space was very big. Now, the reason the space was very big is because the building wasn't very nice. As much as I loved the building, it was an old, not very well maintained. Like, it was maintained, but they weren't going to do renovation work. They weren't going to paint it. Some of the lights didn't work, all that kind of stuff. That's why it was so cheap, because it was so big and it wasn't in a very nice place. But because my overheads were so low, my business did really well. It did really well. I didn't have any debt. I was able to, pay my staff. Everything was just going really well. But because it was in this old industrial estate, in this secluded area, there was also no foot flow. And as with all businesses, there were times when things were a bit slower and things were then picked up. And I remember there was once when I did a sale, and it was a sale where I was encouraging people to come into the health centre to, get discounts. And it was like a sunny Saturday and no one was there. And I remember literally no one came for the whole day. And me and my husband sat outside the steps of this building. And I was saying, I would like to move to a high street because there's no foot flow. There's not even anyone I can pull into the shop. Come in and have a look. We've just opened. We've got a sale on, blah, 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 blah. So I decided to move, even though business was good. And again, no debt. My online sales were always doing well. I would go to events. I would do well at events. My clinic was good. And no matter where I have gone, people always come to my clinic. No matter where I am, people will travel. I've had people travel from Scotland to come to the clinic. I remember there was one day where I had 3 clients and all of them came from London to Wolverhampton for the live blood analysis and for the clinic. Um, so even though everything was going well, I just wanted more. So I handed in my notice and I started looking for a high street location because again, this would be fulfilling the dream that I had had since I was younger. Now, I this is one of the first lessons in business that I learned. I found a shop on a high street, the same high street I'm on now, actually. I found a shop on this high street and I looked around it and I was so excited. I'm like, oh, this is so cute. And it was only twice as much as I was paying. Well, I know only. It was only roughly twice the amount that I was paying. And I knew that there would be a few more overheads, but I was still really excited and it felt manageable and it felt good. So I started doing the paperwork, but my husband came in and I showed him around the place as well. And he actually didn't like the place. He was like, he just walked around and he was like, Leah, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. That looks damaged. That looks broken. I'm walking through this place with rose tinted glasses. My husband's there like a surveyor, probably thinking, okay, she's going to ask me to fix this. I'm going to have to get silicone to stop that gap. I'm going to have to get cement to sort that out. And to be honest, his reluctance to get comfortable with the place and get excited about it. And that's why it's good to have me being all flamboyant and my husband being very sensible because we balance each other out. We actually I told a friend of mine who's also in business that we were moving, and I told him we were moving to this particular high street. And the estate agent that I was working with was the same estate agent he had previously worked with. And he literally told me a horror story about the fact that he moved into this property on this high street without fully reading the contract. And it resulted in him getting regular charges throughout the 6-year lease that he was there, and eventually getting saddled with a £6,000 bill for restoration work that needed to be done on the building that no one knew about until things got really bad. And so I was like, okay, my husband's not comfortable with this place, and I can see that some work needs to be done. So I had a bit of money because my mum had recently passed on and she had left us some money. We had inherited some money from her. This will forever be a disappointment something I'm disappointed in myself for doing. Even though I understand it worked out well, it just didn't feel good. So I used some of the money that she left me to pay for a structural surveyor to survey the property that I was moving into, because the lease that I was going to be signing, for anyone that's had commercial properties before, and again, these are the lessons that I want people to learn. The contract that I was going to sign was a full rent, maintenance and repair, which means once I signed that lease, everything that went wrong in that property, it would be fully my responsibility. I would have to hand it back to them in the condition that I found it in. And I couldn't really ask them for anything. And I had to pay them insurance on top of that. So when this structural surveyor, who I paid over £1,000, I'll let you know that from now. I paid over £1,000 for this structural surveyor to come in and look at the property. This brother, this guy basically gave me a report saying that there was over £11,000 of work that needed to be done. I have never heard such sentences as none of the doors in this place are functional. I was like, what do you mean they're not functional? How can a door not be functional? He said, none of the doors are functional. None of the windows closed properly. There was parts of the roof that were leaking. There was significant mold. Most of the floors were damaged. So most of the floors needed to be replaced. There was gaps around all of the windows. None of the windows had double glazing. There was no central heating in the place, which was contributing to the mold and was going to make the mold even worse. The list of problems, he just kept on going with them. Now, if I had stayed in the property, all of that would have been my responsibility. I was going to be making food on site. I was going to be making my CMOS on site. The children would have been on site. I would have had events in the building. And we would have been in a space with black mold. And so what I know some people do in that situation. And this was actually before ChatGPT and me being able to just ask a chatbot something. I did a bit of research online and I found out that some companies, even companies that are not my neighbors on this high street right now, when they come into a building and it is very worse for wear, they ask for rent-free periods. So instead of paying rent, you use the money you would have paid them in rent to renovate the property. And I gave them this whole structural survey saying all the challenges that were there. I said and the surveyor said to me, do not move in until they either reassure you they are going to fix all of this or they're going to give you enough rent-free time for you to fix it all. And 10 grand would have been basically a year's rent-free. And again, I know businesses who have got a whole year's rent free so that they can use that money to renovate the property. We submitted everything to the landlord and they said no. So whilst I was very disappointed in myself, I spoke to my brother about it, feeling very downhearted, my brother and my sister actually. And I just felt terrible. And my brother literally said, Leah, that is the cost of doing business. And if you hadn't found that out now, you would have been probably more than 10 grand in the hole because you would have started renovating a property that you didn't even know that there were all this damage to. And it would have ended up costing you worse. So this is actually a good thing. He reassured, and I needed reassuring because I felt terrible. He said, this is actually a good thing. So don't worry about it. Basically, in hindsight, a lot of money would have been saved. I actually at that point felt very crestfallen and was considering working from home. And the idea of me working from home with children was possibly the worst thing ever for me because I didn't want everyone knowing where I lived and when I was with my children. But then I started looking back online and I found another property. And this property, and I think because of everything that had happened, my ego was activated, I think at this point. I felt like I needed to redeem myself and still push forward with this. So when I found this property that just came back on the market, I came and looked at it and I did instantly fall in love, to be honest, because it was big, it was on a high street, it was clean. There was no structural problems with it at all. There was no damp. There was no, subsiding ceilings. Everything had been repainted. It was clean. There was a kitchen. There was a shower. It just felt like a natural progression for me to move into it. So I took it. And again, the initial investment for me to move in came from the business, but also from the inheritance from my mum. Now, that's what I did. That's how I ended up in this beautiful natural health center. And I had these visions of turning it into this hub where loads of people would come and they would hang out and I would do loads of events and have my clinic and the shop and a juice bar. And it would be a real busy hub in the community and people would see it as a safe space for, Black health and all these kind of things. Those were all my visions. And, we started the process of adding our touches to it and painting my logo on the wall and it felt home and I felt so enthusiastic. And, my community has always supported me. And I, didn't see any reason why that wasn't going to happen moving forward. So that's everything that happened. Now, this is where things started going wrong. The problems with my whole situation were I did no proper financial planning. I roughly worked out that I needed to make about £250 a week and that was going to cover the rent, the broadband, and the electricity. And then my mind said everything else is going to pay for itself. I'm going to have such an onslaught. They're going to be lining up outside. There's going to be such an influx of business because this was based on where I was before. I was thinking if I did well where I was based before, I'm moving to a high street. This is the sky's the limit. So I just assumed everything else would pay for itself. But that lack of financial planning also included the fact that I didn't know my numbers well enough at all. I've always been able to work myself out of any challenging financial situation that I'm in. I'm a very hard worker. I was always able to out-earn my problems. But my problems were never this expensive. And that's coming from a mother with 6 children. Do you know what I mean? But my problems have never been this expensive. So business rates insurance, because I didn't qualify for small business relief anymore. These are things I didn't even really understand. But business rates, insurance, paying for my own bins. Family, when I found out I had to pay for my own bins, I was like, I'm a big girl now. I am no longer a child. I have to pay for my own bins. Taxes don't cover this. Fine. Business rates, insurance, the bins, the electricity for this building, which I completely underestimated. And I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. Paying for stock, because now I wasn't like just in an office where I needed enough stock for clients that were coming in and to fulfill online orders. I needed to make the shop look full. So whereas before that wasn't a problem, the aesthetics of my shop were now important. So I needed to make sure I had stock. And I would listen to everyone. I would want to please everyone. So anytime someone came in, do you sell vitamin E oil? Do you have castor oil? Do you sell snacks? You don't have that much in the fridge. Do you have magnesium? I would be like, okay, I need to get that in stock. So I was trying to buy everything. And then obviously find things that were still to my standard of what I wanted to sell. But stock became a challenge. Staff, because again, now I needed staff to help support me while I was in my clinic for 3 days a week. Cleaning products, the miscellaneous things, those were just the exclusive costs of running a shop front. And then I had the regular business expenses of my banking fees, accountancy, software subscriptions, meant that the cost of the business, which I only really actually appreciated about 2 months ago, after having been here for nearly 2 years, went from being what I thought would have been maybe about a grand a month or 900 a month to £2,000 a month plus £2,000 and more. Whereas my previous location, with everything included, running at full pelt, I was maybe spending about 800. So this place, it was now over. I knew the rent was more than double what I was paying, but all the other expenses that I didn't account for meant that every single month I was running at a debt, and I didn't realize it until just very recently. I also had no contingency. The other problem was I had no contingency if things went wrong. And 4 months after I moved here, the shutters on the shop broke because they were very poorly fitted, and nobody knew that. No one knew that. Not enough work was done to protect that. It was a miracle that nobody was hurt, but the whole metal shutters crashed down. I had to close the shop for 2 weeks. And again, I had worked out I needed to make a certain amount every week to stay open, to be viable. And 2 weeks after 4 months, and for the first month, there was I had an opening event, I had a pre-opening event. There was lots of, hype. And the first couple of months were well, but after 4 months, things started to taper off significantly. And even though I was promoting regularly, things were still tapering off. Then I had to close the shop when the shutters came down. I had to then pay for the shutters. The shutters couldn't just be dragged out and put in the bin. I had to pay for a company to come and cut these with steel cutters, cut up the shutters and dispose of them safely, which cost a significant amount of money. And I had been closed for 2 weeks. I then had to get security cameras, locks on the doors. Like, that was one of the many things that went wrong. I mean, the place has leaked twice as well. So, and again, I'm on a full rent and maintenance and repair lease here as well. So that was another challenge. I didn't have any contingency for when things went wrong. The other thing I realized is that location really does matter in this type of a business. If I'm just a clinic and I'm just selling online and doing events and talks, my location isn't as important. But the reason why this place costs so much is because it's on a high street. And that's because high streets are meant to give you the benefit of passing trade. But this particular high street is never busy. It's very rarely busy. And when it is busy, it's busy at the top of the high street. So whilst I had enough people coming into the clinic and those kind of things, the added cost of being on a high street was never really appreciated. It never really patterned out, because this location for a shopfront business, this is the wrong location for that. I underestimated the time that would be needed and the money that would be needed to promote a business like this as well. And even though I for the last few years that I've been working out of the home and in a office space, it was because my youngest children, my youngest ones were old enough to not need me there for those 3 days. And my husband's more than capable of looking after the children. My children still have needs. And in fact, as they're getting older, their needs are diversifying and changing. So it's not that they don't need me anymore because they're, the older ones are older teenagers now. Their needs are different. And my younger ones, their needs are changing and evolving as well. And I then had to kind of, I'm a working mum, and all working mums know this, that you have to kind of make a choice between the time you give to your work, the time you give to your passion, the time you give to yourself, and the time you give to your children. And the amount of time that I would need to, the amount of time I'm already giving to this business, and how much more I would need to give to pull it out of the hole that it's in, is something I'm realizing now I'm not the right person to be in this business. Now, all of this would have been fine if I had built a team properly. But from the beginning, I didn't build a team properly. I didn't appreciate why it would be so important for me to build a team, because we probably wouldn't be having this conversation now if I had built a team well enough of volunteers, of interns, of apprentices, of full paid staff members to have kept the business going so that I didn't need to be here the 3 days a week. And I could have gone off and done more business development. Whereas that old adage of working in the business and not on the business, that's what I've fallen into. There's a whole book. Do I have it here? There's a book called The E-Myth. And it speaks about what happens when you don't work on your business enough and you're always working in your business. And that's what I fell into. I was working in my business so much that I don't have time to do all the things that were necessary, including having people here so that I could go off and do other things. Because of all of those things that I just mentioned, the income in this shop has been sporadic. Whilst the first day, like, I don't know if anyone's read the book, The Alchemist. I don't know if I've got that book. I don't know if anyone's read the book, The Alchemist, but it speaks about the fact that when you first start a project, you can get hit with this wave of success to give you an idea of what success can look like in your life. And then it's your responsibility to do what's necessary to keep that going. But when you're on the right path, you do get this initial rush of success. So when I did the pre-launch, I did a pre-launch for this place where I just invited close friends and family and my most loyal supporters and customers. On that day, and on the day where I launched the business to the public, on those 2 days, I basically made enough income on those 2 days to cover the rent on just those 2 days. So even though that was the case, everything was very up and down and sporadic. And there were plenty of days, even up until 2 weeks ago, where I would have a full day of being open, using the electricity, using the gas, using the broadband, using the water, and I would have under £10 worth of sales. And my poor calculations were showing that I needed to have £250. But regularly, I mean, I remember coming home and telling the children, yep, I made £2 today. I made £10 today. I made nothing today. In this shop, I made nothing today. Now, on a lot of these days, I'm still getting online sales. My online orders have basically never dried up. And if anything, they've increased. So what this meant is that my debt snowballed to the point of being unsustainable. It absolutely snowballed. At this point, my debt is snowballing. So, and because of all these, and that had an impact on my mental and emotional health. As everyone knows, when there's debt and you're accumulating debt, it has an impact on your mental and emotional health, which it absolutely has had with me. All of those challenges of trying to work out, how am I going to sort this debt out? How am I going to work this out? All of these things started to then affect my core business, which is actually my online sales, my delivery and creation of new products, and again, my mental health. So what did I learn from all of that? Now, going back to the electricity, one of the things that shows the poor calculations of all of this is I didn't submit meter readings I submitted meter readings for the first year that I was here, but for the second year that I was here, I just didn't, because I thought, okay, they've got a year of my readings, so the next year should be fine. I ended up paying what I thought, what they calculated I would need, which was like 50 quid a month for electricity. This is how debt can creep up on you when you're not good enough with your numbers. Um, I was paying £50 a month of electricity, and I was doing well with that for the most part. I then submitted a meter reading and realized that in this whole building that I've got the shop at the front, I've got this business development pack, the room I pack orders, and it's got all my herbs on the shelf, and I make products. I've got the other room, which is the event space, which is the biggest space. I've got the kitchen, the bathroom, and the clinic room. The only place in this whole building that has windows that can let in any heat or any light is the shop at the front. For me to be in any of the other spaces, we need the heating on and the lighting on. So even though I'm only here 3 days a week, it takes a lot of energy to run this place. When I did submit my meter readings, it actually transpired that I wasn't using I was not using £50 a month. I was using £250 a month. So I got smacked with a bill for several £1,000s, basically, on top of what I was paying. I was getting threatened with disconnection notices. They were going to come and disconnect the electricity. I had to speak to them. I had to pay a load of money initially. And this was when I was already far behind with the rent, because I've been slowly getting behind on the rent for ages, for months, in fact. I think I was actually only up to date with the rent for the first year. And then for the last year, I'm always a little bit behind. And my estate agents, bless them, because I'm very communicative with them and making sure that, they know what the situation is and I'm doing the best that I can. They've allowed me. But yeah, it just all became too much. So what have I learned from all of that? What I have learned is that optimism is good, because I'm a very optimistic person. I don't mind challenges. I don't mind things being hard. I don't mind the knowledge that I'm going to have to work for what it is that I want, because if I believe that something is important enough, I'm more than happy to work really hard for that to manifest. And I'm very optimistic as well. Not necessarily, and this might sound a bit contradictory, I'm not necessarily very self-confident, but I am optimistic that things are going to work out, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I've learned is optimism is good, but a spreadsheet is much better. And had I just had a spreadsheet that showed me the actual reality of exactly how much I needed to make, and then exactly how much I was making and what the shortfall was, I probably would have handed in my notice much sooner, or I would have sorted out something to bridge that gap a lot sooner than where I am now. The other thing I learned is that due diligence takes time, but it's worth it. It's saved me with the first shop, because having that surveyor come in and paying him a bag, even though it was a lot of money, it would have saved me crazy amounts of money. But here I did kind of come into it with rose tinted glasses, and I didn't do, even though the place wasn't a problem, I didn't do all the due diligence that was really needed to know my numbers well enough. The other thing I've learned is that it's actually super impactful to have a physical location and serve a community, because since I have been here, I've spoken about all the kind of behind the scenes challenges that have happened. Since I have been here, I've been able to meet so many people. People do come in. It's not the foot flow isn't what I need it to be at all. But I do have so many people coming in and being able to kind of share with me their health challenges, and for me to be able to help them more individually. They feel, a lot of people have said that they love the fact that I'm here because there's a space where they know they can come and get natural products and things that are holistic, and there's someone that can explain things to them. And, I'm not judgmental at all when it comes to people's health challenges. I've probably seen it all when it comes to health. I also don't just focus on people's physical health. I do put a lot of emphasis on people's mental and emotional health as well. So when I have conversations with people, I'm able to allow them to see that their challenge that they're facing, there's a lot of layers to it as well. And that can offer a lot of comfort to people who felt like, I've done every operation, I've taken every medication, I've even tried every supplement, nothing's working. being able to help them see that there's more layers to what they're experiencing is useful. So I would highly encourage, I mean, forget everything I've just said about my experience, forget all the challenges and just listen to the lessons, because I really think it is so impactful having a physical location that serves the community. And anyone else that ever wants to open a space like this, please just learn from the mistakes that I've made to make that happen, because we need more spaces where our voice as Black people, as holistic people, as people who want to create a shift in consciousness on this planet, we need safe spaces where our voices are elevated. And a physical location is super important for that. The other thing that I've learned is that my community is amazing. I mean, I may not have had enough people to sustain the business as it was. And again, that was a lot to do with me and what I was willing to do. I've got people like a brother came in today called Ronald, Kembe and Muta, a sister called Danette, a couple called Jordan and Layla, like a couple called Cordelia and Ty, like, and that's just to name a very few. The amount of people in the community here who have regularly come into the shop, who have told all their friends and family about me. And, you know, it's not lost on me that I wouldn't be getting the support that I was getting if I wasn't providing a good product and I wasn't looking after my community. You know, I wasn't looking after them in return. But I know a lot of businesses, when they don't do so well and they have to close, I know that there's this idea in the Black community that, oh, Black people don't support Black people. Trust me when I tell you, I would not be here if it wasn't for the Black community. I wouldn't have got this far in my business journey if it wasn't for the Black community. I am eternally grateful for my online customers, for everyone that has come into the shop, from people that have come into the shop from all over the place. My community is absolutely fantastic. And I sincerely appreciate all of you lot. What I've learned is that this is just not the right business for me at this time of my life. I want to be around my children as much as possible, and I only have a few years left to do that. So I want to make the most of my time. So a few people that I've, spoken to about this, they've asked, is the move going to be best for me? Is it going to work for me? And yes, that is one of the biggest things, is that it is going to work for me. Now, to be honest, if I was really I used to think I wanted to be a millionaire, but I don't think I want to be a millionaire. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to make as much money as possible, because I know money is one of the resources that's needed for me to create the change in the world that I want to create. So I do want to make money. I definitely want to make money, but for personal gain and to do things that aren't in alignment with all of my values, to continue to make money, that I know is something that I'm actually not interested in doing. I also want more freedom in my life. So I'm also not the kind of person who, this particular business where I have to be in a physical location from this time to this time, 3 days a week, this isn't for me. Now, again, if I had done a better job at structuring the business, building the team, doing more advertising from the beginning, doing a lot of things differently at the beginning before I got to this place, I wouldn't be in a position where I had to be here all the time. I would have staff, I would have a team, I would have all the things. And if I did it again, and if any of you do it, pattern these things from the beginning, so that, and it might take a little bit longer than 2 years, but I could have had that freedom if things had gone differently. But because they haven't gone differently, and I'm here where I am now, I'm not willing to compromise my freedom and my time with my family to be in this physical location. I can, and what's most important about all of that is I can still achieve all of the goals that I have to help reduce the health gap for Black people in this country, help support the unique needs of Black women's health in this country. I can still do all of that without having a physical space on a high street with super high overheads. So there's something called the sunken cost fallacy, or the Concord fallacy, they called it, which is the idea that a business will keep going because they've already put so much money into the business that they feel like if they close the business or stop the project, they would have wasted the money that they sunk in. And they call it the Concord fallacy because that, Concord that was owned by the Americans, sorry, the English and French company that ran Concorde, which was the super fast planes back in the 80s or 90s or something, they knew that things were unsustainable. But the prestige of having the fastest plane on the planet at the time meant that they just kept on plowing money into it because they had put so much money into it and they didn't want to stop. Now, that is also ego. A lot of that is ego. A lot of that is, and I definitely felt that. I felt like when I started to realize, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep this business going, my ego was definitely activated. I did think about all the money that I'd put into this place. I did think it was a waste. I did think, what are people going to think? I did think, what are my family going to think? And that thought didn't last very long because my family are very supportive. I did think, how is this going to look to my children? What impression are they going to have of me if I've had to close the business? All of those things absolutely did have an impact on, again, my mental and emotional health and my decision to, push forward. Because at the end of the year, in December, again, I was hit with a huge bill for this business. And sorry, one second. I was hit with a huge bill. And I was thinking, I don't think I can, I don't think I can pull myself out of this one. But yeah, I, soldiered on and thought, okay, I've only been here a year and a half. Let me just keep going. I haven't been here long enough. I need to be able to keep going for longer. Because I also had this negative, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day. I also had this negative impression of myself that I don't stick to things long enough. So the last few places I've been in, I was in all of them for either a year or 2 years. So I was in Kettering for a year. I was in Kembay's in Erdington, Kembay and Rena's in Erdington. I was there for about 2 years. I mean, COVID hits, that was a bit different. I was at the Saturn Centre for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I've been here for longer. So when I signed the contract here and it was a 6-year contract, I was like, finally, something is going to physically keep me in one location. So I'm not bouncing all over the place. And I get to just, put down some roots and just be here. So, but what I was saying to my husband, giving myself some grace, is maybe that's not, number one, maybe it's not necessary for me to be in one location forever. It's not stopping me, and it's never stopped me from being able to help people. And that is, that is an important part of my work, is making sure I'm able to help people. It's not stopping me from helping people. And maybe that's just part of what makes me who I am, is that I do move on to different things. Because to be honest, if I didn't move on to different things, I wouldn't have started live blood analysis. I wouldn't have written the books that I've written. I wouldn't have done the courses that I've done. Like, I wouldn't be the speaker that I am if I just stuck at things. And I think that's okay. And I've decided it's okay because that's part of self-love, is me acknowledging that that's just okay. As long as because in fact, moving forward, because I have been at this physical location, my goal was, I want to build this space. It meant that I've had to say no to a lot of other opportunities. And saying no to opportunities is not a problem. I think it's important that you say no to opportunities that aren't in alignment with where you want to move in life. But I've said no to opportunities that I didn't necessarily want to say no to because I had to focus on building this space. So where do I go from here? Everything about the business is basically going to stay the same, apart from the location and the convenience for my local customers. So whilst I do feel bad about the fact that I'm not going to be just here and there's not a space you can come to 3 days a week all throughout the day to just pop in whenever you feel like it and buy stuff, I'm still going to be able to make it, people in the local area are still going to be able to get to me. And everything else about the business is going to be the same. The clinic is still going to be running. The Online sales are still going to be available. The CMOS monthly subscriptions are still going to be there. There are still going to be times when people can come physically to pick up their products as well. But the physical shop being open 3 days a week, that's the only bit that's really changing. And the amount of space that I've got. I'm moving to a much smaller location. Every time I've moved before and I've told people I'm moving, people are like, you're moving on to things that are bigger and better. And I've always legitimately I've known I am actually moving to somewhere that in square footage is bigger and better. I am now moving to a space that you can swing a cat, but there'd probably be some animal safety concerns. Do you know what I mean? Like the cat would probably wince a little bit. It would get around without being hit, but it's probably about a fifth of the size of this whole space that I have right now. But what is beautiful about it is that it's all included. I am so looking forward to moving back to a space. It's like when you move out of your house, like you move out of your parents' house and you're like, yeah, I'm big, I'm grown now, I'm making my money, I'm going to move into my own place. And then you find out about council tax and you find out about how much toilet paper really costs. And you realize why your mum was reusing the cooking oil, because cooking oil is expensive. And then you're like, oh man, if I could move back home. That's what this feels like. This move now feels like I'm moving back home because I'm moving to a serviced office facility where everything is included. There's maintenance. I don't need to worry about the toilets. I don't need to worry about the kitchen. If the sink gets blocked, that's not my business. If there's a leak, that's not my business. It is super affordable for me. Everything is included, which means that I'm going to be able to clear my debt, because there was at one time the potential of me going insolvent. And I didn't even know what insolvency was, bear in mind. I didn't really know what insolvency was. And we got close to that. But the idea of going insolvent was not something I was ever willing to do with this business. I am very committed to making sure every single one of my debts is fully paid. I just need to make sure I'm in a better position to be able to do that, and I'm not accumulating more debts along the way. So because everything's included, the space is a lot smaller, a lot more affordable. It means that I can pay off all my debts and stay solvent. The clinic is still going to be running as normal. Online sales are still going to be running as normal. And again, because I don't have the added pressure of having to run this whole place, it means that I'm going to be able to offer a much more efficient service with the clinic and my online sales as well. That's definitely the goal. I am going to have 2 days a month where there's going to be a click and collect service, and people can come into the space and pick up their orders, or they can just come and shop from the shelves that we have there. Everything's going to be much smaller, but you can absolutely come in and do that. This is also going to mean that I can have clinics in more places now, because I haven't been able to go and do lots of clinics in other places. I haven't even been able to go and do events on the weekend anymore. The Hidden Science event that I did, like curly treats, Hidden Science of Black Women's Health, the Hidden Science of Black Hair the other day in Birmingham, a one baby shower kind of event, a Black women's pregnancy event, sorry, and 2 talks at a church have been the only events I've been able to do on the weekends for 2 years. So whilst I was very committed to supporting the community here and having a space here, not having to have a physical space means that I am going to be able to do a lot more events, clinics remotely as well. So I'm going to be able to start coming back to London to do clinics in London. I've already actually spoken to a sister who's going to give me a space to do a clinic in North London, which I'm super excited about doing, because I don't think I've done a North London clinic in ages. I'm looking to come back to South London and do clinics as well. So my community that are in London, I'll be able to, even though I very, very much appreciate you guys coming up to Wolverhampton, I will be able to come and support you guys down there as well. I'm going to focus on doing a lot more online events because education is still something that I feel is something that I'm here to do. I do love teaching. I love sharing information. I love sharing very practical information as well. I want people to come away from the time they've spent with me having felt like they've learned something, they've developed in some way, they've got tools that they can go home with and implement into their life. It makes their health journey more sustainable. And I want to really develop that. The Mauer Circle that I ran, I'll be able to start running that more as well. Again, I can go to more talks and events on the weekend. I've had to say no to, like I said, I've had to say no to so many events, but literally in the last couple of weeks, I've secured 2 weekend events that I'm going to be doing this year that I've had to say no to for the past few years. Literally, there are 2 events that have asked me to come and speak there or be one of the facilitators for 2 years, and I've had to say no. And this is the first year that I'm able to do it, so I'm very happy about that. Moving forward for me and where I go from here is also that we are likely to see a happier, more productive, and hopefully better slept Leah, who can show up more fully for myself, for my family, and for my people, for, you know, the sisters I support, for the brothers I support, for the people that I support. My mission is still very important to me, and I feel that this is the best way for me to continue in a sustainable way, that still helps people but doesn't compromise me in the process. So that is everything that I wanted to share. I hope you have learned something from this. I hope you understand how I got here, what happened when I got here, the mistakes that I made, the problems that I had, what I learned from them, and where I go from here. If you're on my mailing list, I'll send the link to join my mailing list. If you get emails from me, then you're on my mailing list. If not, joining my mailing list is how you will be able to find out about everything that's going to be happening, where I'm going to be moving. So the official closing date for this space is the 10th of May. I was going to kind of just go out quietly, but I am now thinking that I'm going to have a party. I think it just some music and some food on the 10th of May. It's probably going to be from because I have clinic on that day as well, on Sunday, the 10th of May. I am going to be doing an online sale. I'm going to be doing an online sale and a sale in the shop for that weekend. Yeah, man, go out with a bang, innit? I'm going to be doing a sale that weekend, and I'll share all the details with everyone about that. So in store and online, there'll be a sale, and probably just for a couple of hours, we'll just have some food and some music. And one thing that my sister reminded me is to do a ceremony for closing as well. So I want to do a closing ceremony for this space, to thank this space for, allowing me to fulfill one of my dreams of owning a shop, to honor the ancestors that have supported me, honor my mum, definitely for, her forward thinking financially that allowed me to have this space in the first place, my living relatives who have supported me, my children, all of you all. I want to do a closing celebration. Now, I'm telling you, the place I'm moving into is so small. We ain't gonna be able to do no opening party like I've normally done. It's not gonna be one of those situations, and that's fine. That is fine. I'll probably do something online. When you come into clinic, or if you come into the click and collect, you'll be able to see everything there. I will have an open day on the first weekend. People can just come in. For the first weekend that I open, which will be the first weekend in June, and all the dates will be sent out. For that weekend, it will still be opening hours, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. People just come in whenever they want to, see the space, all the things. But yeah, it's a small family. I didn't think I would ever feel happy saying I'm moving to a space that's much smaller. And the space is still in Wolverhampton. It's literally 7 minutes drive, I think, down the road from where I am right now. It's closer to the station. It's not that close to buses and trains and stuff like that. So it's about a 15-minute walk from the closest bus stop. But from Wolverhampton station, if you're in Wolverhampton, it'll be no big deal. But from the station, it's I think about a 7 minute drive. So it's closer than the station is from me here, but public transport isn't as great. Um, so yeah, that is it. Like, so let me look at some of these comments. Thank you everyone for your comments. If anyone wants to ask a question, feel free to put it in the chat and I will answer that. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you, sis. Greetings, everyone. So Vanessa said, big up yourself for continuing as long as you have. Thank you, sis. Even with the challenges. Question, would you say your online flow has enabled you to keep the physical? Listen, let me tell you something. If it wasn't for my online sales, this health center wouldn't be here. 100%. I don't think you lot realize, you lot think you're just ordering some CMOS. You are helping me live my life. You are literally, I know you get something in return. I know you get delicious CMOS. And you know what the wickedest thing is, yeah? I still shock myself when I make my CMOS. When I make my CMOS, I taste every single batch. Very hygienically. I taste every single batch. And when I taste my CMOS, it's like I've never tasted the CMOS before. It's still like, oh my gosh, that's delicious. And if any of my children are here, if my husband or my children, they must think I'm crazy. If my husband and my children are here, I'm still like, oh my gosh, taste this. Like it's the first time they've ever tasted it. I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. And then because you would have thought, I've been making the lime and ginger CMOS gel for like 5 years. You would have thought I'd be used to it now. I still am not. And now I'm making the strawberry and the mango more now as well. I'm like, oh, this is not, this doesn't even feel like work. I get to taste this. I just get to taste it all day. It is so even though you lot are, getting delicious CMOS, which is amazing for your health and all the things, you are absolutely financing. Because if it wasn't for the online sales, I would definitely be far further in debt. But everyone who's been ordering products online, everyone who's been buying tickets to my online events, the ebooks that I sell, all of those things, absolutely. That is absolutely. And in fact, that is what I would 100% recommend it as another, as well as all the other things that I've shared. If you are going to have a physical space, part of that contingency of having a physical space is to create something online, making sure that you're able to sell products, if it's practical to do so, selling products online, selling services online. Also, one thing I've learned that's basically invaluable is making sure you've got multiple streams of income. I mean, I don't know, I should have stressed that a lot more, but having multiple streams of income, not just relying on things that cost money to do, that have got a physical cost that you're just making a profit on, online talks, selling, consultancy services, even influencer money, all those kind of things is definitely super important. So Nicole said, main lessons, due diligence, financial projections, time, staff, the amount of advertising needed to settle the business. Yeah. Question, are you still going to run occasional blood labs here and there? Yeah. So definitely the clinic is always going to be, I'm not going to stop the clinic. Going to love and leave you now. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, you'll always achieve great things. Thank you so much. Betty, your versatility, flexibility, and the fact that you are not giving up, but evolving in a different format will teach your children, family, and friends and colleagues so much more. Do you do what you need to do? We will follow. Thank you so much, sis. It is not all about size. Yep. Petite. And she's put a fancy word that I can't spell, darling. I can't pronounce. Nice things come in small packages. Yes, they do. What you have done for your community is priceless. Thank you so much. Keep going on, my sisters. Thank you so much. You love my humor. I appreciate you, sis. Your vision will always stay blessed. Appreciate you all. Yes, I'm going to go out with a bang. Thank you for everything. Your transparency, Leah. You will do great things in the future. Thank you so much, everyone. If anyone has any questions as well, we can have a welcome cuppa. Yes. That's as much as there's going to be space for me, you, and a cup of tea, darling. And the youth place. Agree, loving your transparency too. Very insightful. Well done for getting this far. Love your never-ending enthusiasm and humor too. Thank you. It's recorded so we can watch back. Yes, I'm definitely going to be sending out the recordings. I missed the first hour, the first half hour work work. So I'm still unclear as to why you're closing the space. So yeah, it's all been recorded. So I'm going to send that out so you'll be able to see all of that. I'm telling you, you make the most best sea moss. Thank you. My mum loves the turmeric and ginger. Oh, I appreciate that, darling. That is actually becoming one of the bestsellers. The mango and turmeric sea moss is edging close to being as popular as the lime and ginger one. Thank you for everything. Thank you, sis. I've tried making lime and ginger sea moss myself. Truly no. Oh, thank you, sis. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all your messages. Thank you, Kanaya. You've always been a huge inspiration to me. Thank you so much for all the messages in the chat. Oh, you're lovely. If anyone has any questions, thank you for your products, your service. Not been to the shop, but I've learned a lot from your story. Thank you for the valuable service. Thank you, everyone. Don't beat yourself up. Remember you from Kenbase. Oh, that's nice. I'm on your mailing list. Always love your energy and transparency. Thank you. Don't forget about the chocolate one. Oh, Cordelia. You see that? Yep. I am thinking of doing that. One of the things that I wanted to do actually was because I now send out CMOS once a month. Actually, this is the weekend. I've been making I've made over 100 packs of CMOS this weekend, and I still need to make more to ship out over the next few days. One of the things I always wanted to do is actually to make a special batch of CMOS, like a special flavor every month, and send it out with the monthly, like just a little small pack of CMOS that I send out every month with everyone that's, to everyone that's ordered CMOS. That's something I've always wanted to do. And I might do that. I might do that with the chocolate one. Thank you for your dedication. Oh, thank you very much, darling. This is not a new chapter for you. You can look at it more as expanding your online business. Yeah, that's what it is. I thank you for that. Thank you. I've learned about the value of CMOS through listening to you, and I need to try the new flavors. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, the chocolate one. Thank you, everyone. If anyone has any questions, please. Okay, how can we help at this? How can we help at this point in time for the transition and the beginning of the new chapter? You know what? Everything everyone's already done has already been greatly helpful. There's nothing more I could ask for. I literally couldn't ask for a community who is as supportive as you lot all have been to me at the moment. So being on this call, continuing to like and share posts on social media and being part of my mailing list and, coming and looking at the shop and picking things up online and referring people to the clinic and all of those things, all of the things you are already doing. I do appreciate you asking, but even you being here right now and even asking the question, me knowing that I have the support, I have you all support, means so much to me. So I didn't want to keep you all very long. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to wrap up now and continue to pack orders for this weekend. Again, if you're on the mailing list, then you will find out about the new location, the new address, the new opening times of the days that I am going to be there. And yeah, it's been lovely to see you all and have you all here. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. And I look forward to speaking to and seeing you all soon. Take care, family. Thank you, everyone. Oh, you know what? And also, if anyone does want to open up a shop like this, if anyone does want to and needs any advice, I would be more than happy to, because again, this is the potential that this place had. A lot of people have said they're disappointed that it's going because it's a beautiful space and it's really nice. And it has tons of potential, massive potential. Any space like this does have masses of potential. It wasn't for me, but if anyone does ever want to do something like this again and they want some help and advice, I would actually be more than happy to help them out, especially if they take me out to dinner. Do you know what I mean? I'm partial to fish and chips. If you're asking, fish and chips. And I will talk. I will talk for ages. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, everyone. And plantain. Oh, Cordelia, sorry, darling. In fact, forget the fish and chips. Brown stew fish, rice and peas, and plantain. That's all I need. And if you need to know what portion size of plantain I'm expecting, you just need to go look on my social media and know that what you saw on social media wasn't enough. So just make sure you got planting money for me, and and we'll be good. I promise we'll be good. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to really wrap it up now because I don't want to take up too much of you lot's time. Thank you all. Love you all, and see you soon. Thank you. I do. I still want to be adopted. I do still want to be adopted by someone who knows how to cook planting properly. Huh? Okay. Love you all. Thank you, everyone.